What is up, everybody? This is Alex from IHE TV. Today I'm talking about Edgar Wright's The Running Man. If I'm being fully honest, quite an unexciting project to see from Edgar Wright, especially after last night in Soho, which I thought had a good first half, but just completely crumbled under itself for the second half and couldn't maintain whatever the hell it was going for. So his answer was to make like $100 million Running Man remake? Yeah, $110 million bomb. Not his first bomb. Scott Pilgrim also notoriously bombed, but Scott Pilgrim's a much better movie than this. So this is based off a Stephen King novel, as well as there being the 87 movie that I haven't actually seen, although I have a sneaking suspicion that the 80s camp might actually be what this story needs to make it work. Although, I don't think this is incompetent, I just think it's misguided, bloated, ridiculously bloated, and needed to figure out that tone a little bit cleaner. The subject matter is quite prescient. It's basically fast-forwarding a few decades of what our world's going to look like. Josh Brolin is basically what Mr. Beast is going to be in 20 years, where everyone's poor and dying of basic colds, so people have to partake in humiliating game shows where your life is on the line, harkening back to that ape-brain Colosseum violent instinct. And overall, I found it to be somewhat unremarkable, even though kind of like last night in Soho, for the first act at least, I was quite into it. I like the direction, I really like Glenn Powell is the lead. He's a therapeutic main character. I just like the idea of a main character who is just pissed off. Like, he's just angry, justifiably angry. And he does a great job with the material, the physicality of it. He is not the issue with this film at all. In fact, it's none of the performances that really bugged me here. It was more for me how, yeah, it's listed as a dark comedy. And Edgar Wright, when he's firing on all cylinders, is fucking hilarious. But the dark humor side of it just wasn't clicking for me. There were some sight gags that I thought were clever in a classic Edgar Wright way. You know, the Hot Fuzz shot with the supermarket dude in the background. They do a similar kind of shot here that I thought was fun. When he's hanging off the hotel sign, there are a few good sight gags, but it's the written dialogue attempts at humor that just didn't click for me. I'm talking about like Michael Cera cracking open a monster and turning the movie into Home Alone for 10 minutes. Honestly, this concept would work a lot better as a video game. It's an extremely video gamey movie with all of these rules to the game that has to be explained. And I thought it was clear and understandable, and at first had this high tension to it. The stakes are high, obviously, his life is on the line. And I don't know if Edgar Wright wants to move away from this kind of maximalist hyper style that he's known for, because this is way cleaner and stripped back than a lot of his other movies, which removes some of the personality. I feel like there's a time and place to do that. I think he tried to do that with Last Night in Soho, and it didn't really pay off. But this particular story, I feel, needs a ridiculously campy, over-the-top, almost like Paul Verhoeven approach to sell how irreverent and kind of nihilistic and sad it is. I love the idea of lambasting, sickening, grotesque reality TV and game shows. It's just more the lack of subtlety that makes the tone never settle for me, because it means when it's trying to be sincere and have you really care about this family dynamic and this growing revolution that he's the head of accidentally, kind of gets weirdly self-serious and especially falls apart for me in the last 10 minutes or so. I did quite like the way at first it was incorporating the idea of deepfakes and AI and big tech companies basically controlling narratives, as long as they have control of the technology with these drones, with this idea of these screens that watch you back and all of this kind of thing. And obviously at the heart of it, it is an action movie. Lots of chasing, lots of driving cars and running, as the name suggests. And there are a couple of very well executed action scenes, especially one where Glenn Powell's in the trunk of a car I thought was very cool. But then you have to bring up the stormtrooper aim. The main character is being hunted by these like highly trained assassins, and they like can't hit a single bullet, which I guess is partially maybe explained away by this setup that the company doesn't really care about killing him as much as they care about maximizing ratings and keeping him alive for a certain amount of time. And I don't know, they didn't emphasize that enough during the action scenes to balance that feeling you need of, oh, he's like really in danger, to make this edge of your seat. But there's an instance in one of the action scenes towards the end where there are these quick cuts and it's messy in a way that's unusual for Edgar Wright. Yeah, I mentioned the monster already, but there's some egregious product placement in here, which I guess is going to happen when you have a 100 million plus Running Man movie. I don't really know what they were thinking with this, making it such a big, like, this is going to be the blockbuster of the year, because it's just not really connecting, and it is an enormous bomb, which is not good for Edgar Wright. I genuinely think this film is about half an hour too long. Going over 2 hours for a concept like this stupid is asking a lot of the audience. But as far as Hollywood action movies go, I wish most of them were this well directed. There are moments or flashes of brilliance or cleverness, but I guess I'll talk a couple spoilers now, because the film was hovering about a 3-star for me, but the way it wrapped up just kind of ruined the whole thing. So yeah, spoilers. If you haven't seen it, or if you don't care, you've been warned. So from my understanding in the book, the Glenn Powell character winds up in the jet and basically just crashes it into the network building and kills the Josh Brolin character, which they didn't have the balls to do, I guess. Or I thought they were going to go for a more open-ended thing, integrating that AI deepfake what is real element and yeah, maybe leave it up to interpretation. But the last 5 minutes is just a checklist of answering every question. Did he survive the missile? Is his family alive? Like, those two questions are enough on its own, but then tying in this whole revolution that he starts and is like the figurehead of, it wraps up way too clean. And ironically winds up being super messy as a result. More and more films are indulging in the class consciousness commentary, which is a delicate matter to not be corny or preachy or kind of lame, which it winds up being at parts in this movie. You made me feel like I'm the bad guy. Especially because I watched this right after No Other Choice, which is like a spectacular class commentary, clever comedy with a level of meticulous direction that's like unmatched. It's incredible. So that might be an unfair comparison, but Edgar Wright really needs to figure out what direction he wants to go as a filmmaker, because he's kind of in a sad place for me where I can't even, like, I didn't rush out to see this. I waited a week or two because I just felt no urgency because it didn't look very exciting as a project, wasn't reviewing particularly well, was bombing hard. My local theater just stopped showing it, so I had to travel further to find somewhere that did play it. And it already primed me for a good mood. Like, it was playing this advert that had these people sat in an Audi singing I like to move it, move it. I don't normally film stuff in cinemas, but I was literally the only person in the room, and it's an advert, so yeah, bit of a miss for me. I'd probably still watch this before Last Night in Soho again, but these are both movies I'm not very passionate about, find to be very middling, although I like a lot more about this than Soho probably, even though I think I wound up giving them about the same score, which for me wound up being, yeah, 2.5 star. Maybe it deserves a like, maybe not, I don't know, I'd have to see it again. But the fact I'm talking about like adverts before the movie, not even the movie itself, is kind of a tell. Come on, Edgar. You got greatness in you. Like, Baby Driver was a good jump from these kind of smaller British quirky parody movies to show like, oh, an Edgar Wright heist movie is really cool and not just style over substance. Although I'm kind of curious about that Sparks documentary he made. I didn't really know them as a band until the Gorillaz song that just came out. Well, not just came out a few months ago. And I've started listening to them a bit, so I don't know. I'm just rambling now, so I'm pretty disappointed by this. Let me know your thoughts on The Running Man. Did you like it more than me? Is the 80s version better or worse? Is the book better or worse? The more I learn about Stephen King, the more it seems like there's a lot of issues with his endings. Like, he has these great premises and characters and ideas, but just doesn't know how to wrap up a lot of these stories. So then when it comes to adapting it for a film, it just kind of falls apart. I felt similarly about Long Walk as well. But yeah, see you on the next video. Bye!